Born in October 1960, Ian and Michael Baker-Finch grew up in Nambour, Queensland, Australia, the same neighbourhood town as fellow Aussie Greg Norman. There was no golf course in the area, and nobody really knew what golf was. But then came along Jack Nicklaus, Gary Player and Arnold Palmer, and that really piqued the interest of Ian's dad Tony, and a lot of farmers in the area. Ian went to the forestry department and asked for some land so he could build a golf course. The forestry department accepted and gave Ian 100 acres of swampy marshland. Ian and his father got straight to work, along with all the other farmers in the area who were interested. Ian loved it. Driving around in bulldozers and tractors for a kid his age was a lot of fun. By 1969, the course was finished and ready to open. Tony began playing golf and little Ian would caddy for him. Ian became curious and began to swing his dad's clubs. And on his 12th birthday, Ian received his first very own set. He had a little bag with a 2-wood, 3-iron, 5-iron, 7-iron and a putter, and off he went. The course had no professional and was a little 9-holer. Teaching himself with Jack's book Golf My Way, Ian would have 2 clubs holding the pages down and would copy everything that Jack did. By age 14, Ian knew exactly what he wanted to be, a professional golfer. Ian's father Tony was a hard-working man. He laboured as an electrician, a sawmill operator, while running a 25-acre farm and fathering 6 kids. So when Ian at 15 asked his parents if he could leave school to go work as a golf pro, they helped him pack. Not that it was glamorous, Ian did anything, retrieved golf balls, gave lessons, even picked pineapples, anything to make ends meet. Finch turned pro in 1979 and began playing golf on the PGA Tour of Australasia. After a steady start to his professional career, he finally got his first win in 1983 at the New Zealand Open. That win earned him a place at the 1984 Open Championship. He would make the headlines by taking the 36-hole lead, holding on to the lead after 3 rounds, but then shooting a disastrous last round of 79 to finish 9th. Despite this mishap, Finch joined the European Tour, winning the 1985 Scandinavian Enterprise Open and finishing in the top 20 of the Order of Merit in both 1985 and 1986. At the same time, he continued to play in Australasia during the winter, picking up several further titles and occasionally playing on the Japan Golf Tour. He first played on the PGA Tour as an invitee in 1985 and began to do so regular in 1989. Having qualified for the tour membership by finishing 3rd in the 1988 World Series of Golf, he won his first PGA Tour title at the 1989 Southwestern Bell Colonial, gaining him a 2-year exemption on tour. In 1990, he finished 16th on the PGA Tour money list, on the strength of 3 runner-up finishes and 2 third places. Heading into the 1991 Open Championship, Ian had 3 runner-up finishes to his name that year. Considered a huge outsider, Ian Baker-Finch closed off with a 64-66 to beat Mike Harwood by 2 strokes. With wins in 4 continents, including Asia, Ian was still no Greg Norman. He was never going to be that great, and somewhere deep down, he knew it. He thought he was always going to be a farm boy. He never believed in himself. He hated his swing and was always trying to change it. He never saw himself as an equal to Faldo or Norman. Birkdale, however, opened a small window in his ego. Now that he had beaten Faldo, beaten Norman, beaten them all, he had this overwhelming feeling of not being considered good enough. He saw it as a sign that he could be great. He thought that if he cranked it up a notch, he could do this stuff regularly. He felt he could contend in every major. Why not? For the first time in his life, he figured he had the time to get great. Winning the Open gave him a 10-year exemption on the US and Australasian tours, not to mention an invite to the British Open until he was 65. All he had to do was work harder, and if there's one thing Baker-Finchers are willing to do, it's work harder. Ian's first quest was to get longer, but he couldn't get longer without getting past his smooth little backswing. And when he wandered out past it, he found ugly snap hooks. He was also wrong about time. After winning a major, he had less time than before. He filled his diary for every hour of the day, turning down nobody. He attended everybody's award dinners, no matter how small. He got involved in a hat company, a golf course, a golf school, golf architecture. He said yes to every interview, speech and autograph. Who was a farmer's boy to get snobbish? He just didn't have that stare in him that Norman or Tiger had to get them through mass crowds. So all his practice habits changed. In 1992, Ian won twice. Once on the PGA Tour and once in Australia. But Baker-Finch saw this as a bad year for a major winner. He was disgusted and swore he would change. He took a 2-month break from tournaments, practicing every day. When he came back in 93, he racked up so much pressure on himself. His goal was to finish in the top 10 of every major in 1993. Each major Sunday, he had the chance. All 4 Sundays, he put it in a ditch. Too proud to hit 2 irons off the tee. That would be like giving up, he told friends. Ian received more than 4,000 letters. He answered almost all of them. That's the kind of guy he is. Decent and sweet, and it ruined him. Well-meaning people were on him like eczema, and not just friends. Nick Price told him to grip it stronger. Sandy Lyle told him to keep his elbows pointed more towards the ground. Faldo told him to practice swinging with his eyes closed. Ian Woosnam told him to grip it tight and rip it. Sevi Ballesteros told him to hit shots as softly as he could. Norman told him to study Zen. Payne Stewart told him to keep his knees moving. Baker-Finch listened to all of them. By the time Ian was done trying swings suggested by friends, players, coaches, fans, strangers, articles, books and tapes, his muscles had purged the original and he had no muscle memory of that swing. He managed one last top 10 at the Masters in April '94 and then began the scariest freefall anybody in golf can remember. 10 straight missed cuts from early May to the middle of August. 10 straight tournaments letting fear grow inside him. Playing well on Monday, taking money from his buddies in practice rounds on Tuesday, playing terrific on Wednesday, and then shooting 81 on Thursdays. It was miserable, his wife Jenny said. We were living in Orlando. The plan was the kids would go to school and then would join him on a weekend wherever he was. But he was always home by Friday night. The caddies had their own joke on him. What's the best bag out there? Finch's. He gets the weekends off. It looked as if the agony was over that August, when he shot 67 on the first day of the World Series and was 2 shots off the lead. The next day, he lost 10 balls in his bag and shot 82, with only 21 putts. If his caddy didn't have a spare ball in his overalls pocket, Baker-Finch would have been disqualified. He finished second to last. It was not his swing anymore. It was his mind. Psychologist Bob Rotella asked Baker-Finch to visualize himself hitting a fairway. He couldn't. In 1995, playing 24 tournaments, Finch missed every cut. Shot in the 80s 1 out of every 4 rounds and broke par only twice and averaging 4 penalty strokes per round. In '96 he made 1 cut from 19 tournaments, and that was the tipping point for his wife Jenny. She burst into tears and sobbed. How long do we have to go through this? That was the cruel part, that exemption. The British Open victory was a 10-year invitation to humiliate himself around the world. But Baker-Finch's do not quit. Ian tried everything. Hypnosis, self-hypnosis, telephone hypnosis, old caddies, new caddies, legendary caddies, knee surgery, corrective eye surgery. He asked Butch Harmon to fix his radius of his swing. Didn't help. He tried Ledbetter and many other world-class coaches around the world. Nothing worked. He became the ultimate canvas. Everybody wanted a shot at fixing him. You cure Baker-Finch, you're a miracle worker. He became a national puzzle wherever he went. He would hit balls on a range and turn around to find 6 or 7 coaches behind him, all with their video cameras out recording his swing. He was a lab rat. Tournaments tend to put major winners with major winners. So a player who was already a nervous wreck was made to tee it up with legends. Playing with Palmer at Bay Hill in '95, Baker-Finch put 2 balls out of bounds on the same hole. Playing with Jack Nicklaus at the US Open, Ian went 83-82. Nicklaus felt so bad for him he invited Baker-Finch to his house for 2 weeks so they could sort his problems out. Baker-Finch declined. A month later, teeing off with Arnold Palmer at St Andrews, Baker-Finch hit possibly the worst shot of all time. It happened to be Arnie's last British Open, so the galleries were huge. With all the pressure, Ian put the ball 120 yards out of bounds. In July 1996, Baker-Finch finally put his misery under glass. He gave up on the US tour and moved home to the Gold Coast. For 6 months, Baker-Finch worked on his game in private. Somewhere inside him, he figured it was still there. He played with friends and family, and got better. But social golf is easy. The fear of embarrassment is not there. Then he flew to Scotland to do some television work for ABC at the British Open and entered a tournament. He played a few practice rounds at Troon with his buddies and was right around par. But now he was unsure about entering because his back had flared up in Ireland. Then another Australian player, Peter Senior, barked, "Don't be so bloody stupid, Finchy. I know how hard you've been working. Just go out and do it. Suck it up. Try your hardest." It turned out to be the worst decision of his career. Hole by hole, whatever confidence he'd built up over the past 6 months leaked out of his spikes. He needed to eagle the 450-yard par 4 18th to keep his score under 90. By then his nerves were afraid not. Fans and reporters lined the fairway to see for themselves if it was true that a British Open champion was coming in with a 20 handicapper score. Faced with a simple 60-yard chip to the hole, he finally surrendered to fear. He took out an 8-iron and dribbled the ball onto the green, not trusting himself to put another ball into the air in case he'd skull, shank, snap or slice it. He signed his scorecard, limply shook a few hands and took his wife to the one room where almost nobody would be. the Champions Room, reserved for men who have won the British Open. In 137 years of the event, no champion had ever entered it like that. He ignored the plush chairs and couches and collapsed on the floor, with Jenny and a ball crying next to him. They stayed like that for 45 minutes, hiding from the press and the fans that were looking through the windows. Then Finch got up and did what nobody but he would do. He went into the press room, swallowed hard, and answered questions. "I can't get any lower than this," he admitted. It was so humiliating that some writers couldn't even bring themselves to scribble the words on their notepads. The next day, Ian withdrew from the competition, knowing there was only one thing he could do: try harder. It's November 1997. Jack Graham of ABC Sports is offering Baker-Finch a full-time on-course commentating job. A way out, with some dignity. But Ian decides to give it one more go. He got to work with Coach Edwin. For the first week they did nothing but stand in front of a mirror and make quarter swings. Edwin had him playing the smallest pro-ams he could find. Even in those, word gets out. At his first one back, a few hundred people and a load of press turned up to watch. All of them there to see one thing: a huge snap hook. In October, Baker-Finch finished 6th against a whole lot of nobodies near Brisbane and cashed a cheque for $600. Not much, but $600 more than in 1995. If he wanted to play golf for a living, he doesn't have much choice but to play minuscule events. That December, Baker-Finch finally stuck his toe back in the Australian Tour, at its smallest, friendliest tournament at the Coolum Classic, 30 minutes from his house. To his horror, the Australian press was waiting. 4 stories about him ran in one paper in the morning he was about to tee off. In 2 hours on the course, he undid 5 months of work. He was 4 over after 7 holes, hooking it everywhere. He rinsed 2 in the lake on 9, threw his driver into the tree and picked up his ball. DQ. When he stomped into the clubhouse, 5 years of holding his tongue, 5 years of smiling while his pants were on fire, 5 years of just being so damn decent and everything came out. Why can't you all leave me alone? Why does everyone have to have a photo of me? Why does everyone have to have quotes? Why does everyone have to know what I shot? The next week, Baker-Finch told a friend he was quitting, and it made the papers. It's such a sad story of someone who just tried too hard, and somebody who was just bullied by the press. Ian Baker-Finch eventually responded to ABC and accepted a job. He's now considered one of the greats in TV commentary. Since retiring, Ian's golf has improved dramatically. His tension is out of his body, and he's now enjoying golf again. Who cares how bad I played? My wife and kids love me, and that's all that matters.